the Speaker of the House of Representatives says the National Assembly is pushing for the full domestication of the Child Rights Act across Nigeria. The Deputy Speaker stated this at a ceremony to mark the 2025 Day of the African Child, organized by Hope Alive, an NGO in collaboration with the Erudia Growth and Advancement Foundation. Represented at the event, the Deputy Speaker said Benjamin Kalu called for support for the Child Destitution Bill and also advocated for more investment in education, healthcare and nutrition. Kalu is also urging Nigerian policymakers to move beyond the rhetoric and prioritize children in national budgets and development policies. The convener of the event, Ambassador Chibuzo Okereke, told the gathering that children are the future and it's better to train them early than fix broken adults. And to speak further on this, I'm joined here by Dr. Chibuzo Okereke, who is the president of the Erudite Growth and Advancement Foundation Hope Alive Initiative. Now, the theme, welcome, first of all. Let me welcome you before I jump into the questions. Now, the theme for the 2025 Day of the African Child, of course, is child rights-based budgeting in Nigeria, the role of policymakers. Now, talk to us about the significance of this event to the African child and, you know, bring it down to the Nigerian child.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think I want to start by sympathizing with the people of Benue State. From what we have observed, a lot of children were killed, you know, in the attack that happened. And it's unfortunate that African children, particularly those in Nigeria, continue to face this kind of crisis, violence, and fragilities at a time like this when we are even commemorating the International Day of the African Child. And that brings me to the significance of the day. If you recall, in 1976, the children in Soweto, Southern Africa, protested for their right to be taught in their own language, for their condition of learning to be improved, and right to education, basically social welfare. Many of them lost their lives, kids, you know, waging that particular war. In 1992, the African Union decided to institute June 16 each year to commemorate the memories of those children and use it as an opportunity to call for policy drivers' action and commitment towards the welfare and development of children. Now, the theme for the year, child rights-based budgeting in Nigeria, the role of policymakers is so crucial at this moment. Because you see, actually, budget of nations, state and local government are supposed to be characterized and defined by philosophy that deals with social welfare issues. Unfortunately, most national budget, state and local government lack that philosophical underpinning that deals with the issue of inclusion. Now, when we talk about child right-based budgeting, we are not talking about separate budget for children. We are talking about mainstreaming children development priorities in budget guidelines, principles, budget implementation, resource allocation, and then evaluation of line items in the budget. And this is a global framework. We have also what we call gender-based budgeting. So focusing on child right-based budgeting is to the fact that, for instance, there are key indicators and framework. If you have a national budget, what is the child impact assessment? How much of that provisions in the budget are directly targeted at impacting children? What is the child budgeting analysis? How much of resource allocation is dedicated to issues of protection of the children, issues of their education, issues of their welfare, issues regarding their health care and hygiene? Also, you look at the issue of equity and inclusion. How much of your... So we don't have these variables as characters that define our budget. And that is why the theme for the year is calling for all stakeholders to now mainstream framework for child-based budgeting so that children can have a place in our national budget. They account for 40% of Nigerian population. If we go by 220 million, we're looking at 88 million Nigerians under the age of 15. You cannot make a national budget that is not directed at, you know, and focus on prioritizing issues that concern them. So the theme for this year is anchored on that. I'm happy with the number of stakeholders that came and their responses today. Yeah.
All right, you know, push for this, as you mentioned, the Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives actually said he's committed to ensuring that we have more child rights based budgeting from now on. So how do you intend to follow up with this? Because it's one thing to say it at an event like this, and it's another for it to actually be put into motion. So what would your organization do?
I was very excited with the position of the Deputy Speaker, and even the Speaker was also represented. The Public Accounts Committee Chairman, Honorable Bamidele Salam, was there. The Honorable Barrister Sunday Umeha was also there, Senator Nadi Usman, and a host of other stakeholders. And there was a consensus that, yes, our budget needs a character and philosophy. Beyond the title they give in budget speech, the line items and the sectorial allocation need to speak to issues that concern children. Now, the Deputy Speaker have already said the issue of the Extinction Bill, domestication of the Child Rights Act, Chapter 2 of our Constitution, the prescriptions and aspiration is to the fact that we should be responsible for making sure that we don't have out-of-school children. For instance, the benchmarking indicators for assessing whether budgets comply with child rights-based budgeting technique is to the fact that, one, how much resource has gone to children? How has this impacted in terms of reduction in out-of-school children, reduction in infant mortality, completion rate for enrollment and completion rate, hygiene, health, and what have you. Now, we have seen the gap. Issue maybe capacity gap, because there's also a concept we call politics of budgeting, where people focus more on what can give them political capital and an advantage rather than sustainable social impact. So what we are doing with the Office of Deputy Speaker, who has graciously, said he's going to lead this advocacy, for us we are developing now benchmarking indicators, developing tools for capacity building for MDAs, because Nigeria operates an envelope budgeting system where allocations are given to ministries, agencies, and departments of government, and they are to now make input on those envelopes. So we are saying, in your subconscious, in the budget guidelines and principles, as you bring out details that cover your own envelope, you have to ask yourself a critical question. How does this budget impact children? And what kind of result are we going to have after the implementation? Yeah.
Right, so we hope that this is going to be really fully put into motion as soon as possible.
We are not just stopping with federal government. We know that children, many of these basic health care, primary health care, basic education are all local government issues and state. And we are saying the collapse of governance at the local government level is at the heart of this. For instance, the issue in Benue, can you categorically tell us the number of children that died? It's going to be a guesswork. And in the next Benue budget, or any other sectorial allocation, how is child rights-based budgeting going to be incorporated to address issues of this nature when it affects children?
I think the most important thing is for them to even understand what it means to have a child's right-based budgeting.
Which is why we're developing this advocacy tool and capacity building for people to understand that, you see, budget is the largest and most important national, state, and local government policy development document. It's not something that is just about figure and line item. It should have a character. That character must have purpose that it achieves at every point in time.
So let's now talk about the Child Rights Act. I know a handful of states have domesticated it, and we have still a lot that have not domesticated it yet. What do you think is the delay? Why are states not domesticating the Child Rights Act?
Well, it will shock you to know. First, we have enacted it from the convention, both at the UN level, continental level, and then the domestication that led to the Child Rights Act 2003. As of today, over 33 states have domesticated. But what have we found? Domestication of laws in Nigeria is not even understood by policy drivers and policy makers. This is what we are getting to know. When you domesticate a law that confers obligation and responsibilities on you as a policy maker, you have to go to the next stage, which is policy operationalization. That domestication needs to be given life in the way you budget, in the way you make policies. There has to be a coordinating center that is giving threshold and benchmark, saying 20% of the budget or 30% of the budget must be addressing gender issues, must be addressing child welfare development issues. For instance, we have the policy of Safe School Initiative. Are we consciously budgeting for Safe School Initiative? Because we know many schools today in Nigeria, primary schools, secondary schools, still don't have fences. And that porous nature of this makes it easy for abduction of students and children. Many don't even have proper community security system. So, and somebody will come and cite a classroom block, new one, in where we have dilapidated one, and there are no fences there to secure the children. So, operationalizing domesticated law is most important. Many people domesticate law and forget about the laws they have domesticated. And that's why we say we have implementation problem. People have to consciously assign responsibility to people. Say, the Child Rights Act has a lot of aspirations regarding that is in tune with Chapter 2 of our Constitution. For education, primary health care, social welfare, protection of children. We have to now allocate resources, release resources, track those resources, and measure the impact it's making. So if we say we have 20 million out of school children, how can child right-based budgeting technique help us to address that issue? And what is the timeline? We can say in the next 2, 10, 5 years, we want to have 0 out of school children in Nigeria.
Well, I pray that by the time we celebrate again next year, some of these issues would have been resolved, hopefully.
Yeah, and you are part of it.
We'll continue the conversation.
Yes,
we'll continue the conversation. Thank you very much for being with us on the program. Dr. Chibuzo Okereke, the president of the Erudite Growth and Advancement Foundation.